President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, rejected the interventionism statements made by the U.S. officials. In Palestine, humanitarian emergency worsened as the hours tick by. Nearly 2 million people in the enclave reduced their food consumption to 1 meal a day and drink polluted water. A member of the International Atomic Energy Agency team visiting Japan has declared on Thursday that he does not expect any rise in the radiation levels in the fish caught in the regional seas. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, rejected the interventionism statement made by U.S. officials. The statement were offered by Rodriguez on behalf of the Board of Directors of the National Assembly and the Commission for Dialogue in order to categorically reject the statement of the U.S. officials who warned that a partial lifting of the unilateral coercive measure towards Venezuela is not definitive since the non-compliance with the terms of the agreements will lead to the U.S. to go back on the steps that have been taken. The President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, rejected on Thursday the relevance of the announcement made by the U.S. Treasury Department to grant April licenses for the production, marketing, exploration, and sale of Venezuelan oil, and once again reject the intermission of third countries in the internal affairs of the country.
Categorically, because of its lies, because of being interfering. The Secretary of State and Anthony Blinken and Mr. Guaido, what they pointed out, it's clearly they are ignoring the Constitution and laws of Venezuela. At this point, they must know that the government of Venezuela doesn't accept pressures of any country or any organization whatsoever. We don't accept, we will never accept any kind of interference in our own business.
Jorge Rodriguez also points out the importance of the lifting of the sanctions against the Venezuelan economy and highlighted the legitimacy of the electoral process in Venezuela.
We accept the participation of observers or of international observers. We are proud of President of Venezuela's elections.
In Argentina, the political parties closed their campaigns for the elections of next Sunday, October 22. Candidate Sergio Massa of the Unión por la Patria party decided to close his campaign in a factory as a symbol of what he believes is essential to sustain if he is elected president. Candidate Patricia Bullrich of the Juntos por el Cambio party will close her campaign of the Bonaerense party of Lomas de Zamora, while candidate Javier Milei closed his electoral campaign on Wednesday with a speech focused on privatization and dollarization of the economy and announced that if he becomes president, he will break off relations with countries such as Brazil, China, and the Vatican. Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez expressed on behalf of the Caribbean country his solidarity with the Palestinian cause, its right to sovereignty, while condemning the military actions against Gaza.
our invariable solidarity with the Palestinian and Arab cause. Cuba strongly condemns the indiscriminate bombardments against the population of Gaza and the destruction of homes, hospitals, and civilian infrastructure. Nothing can justify such actions that constitute collective punishment serious violations of international humanitarian law and war crimes and crimes against humanity.
The diplomat also condemned the U.S. veto in the UN Security Council on a humanitarian path to ensure the protection of civilians.
In the current extremely serious situation, the United Nations Security Council has not even been able to make a call to stop the massacre. The United States government vetoed yesterday in that forum a proposal that merely called for a humanitarian pause in the fighting to allow aid access to Gaza and ensure the protection of civilians. It used the pretext that it was premature.
Rodriguez called the United Nations General Assembly to create conditions to guarantee the entry of humanitarian aid and to reach an agreement for the end of violence in Palestine.
The Cuban Ministry of Foreign Affairs makes an urgent call for a ceasefire, demands the end of the war rhetoric, and that the government of the United States stop blocking the Security Council by using its anti-democratic and obsolete veto power to protect the excesses of the Israeli government. It calls for the immediate resumption of the United Nations General Assembly's 10th Emergency Special Session. The Assembly's highest priority must be to achieve an end to violence, a ceasefire, and the provision of urgent and sufficient humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people.
The Cuban Foreign Minister points out that Israel violates the United Nations resolution and called to guarantee the Palestinian people the return of its refugees, the recognition of its state as well as its border and territory.
Israel violates the relevant United Nations Organization resolutions and flagrantly disregards its obligations as an occupying power under the Fourth Geneva Convention. A comprehensive, just, and lasting solution to the conflict inexorably requires the exercise of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination and to build their own state, an independent and sovereign Palestinian state, within the pre-1967 borders, with its capital in East Jerusalem, and with guarantees for the return of refugees. This has been the firm historical position of the non-aligned movement and the Group of 77 and China.
Let's take a very short break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. In Palestine, the total Israeli side against the population of the Gaza Strip continues. On this 13th day of the occupation forces incursion, authorities report more than 3,800 deaths and more than 13,500 wounded.
The Palestinian Health Ministry reported on Thursday that at least 46 Palestinians were killed following Israeli airstrikes on homes in the towns of Rafah and Khan Yunis in the center of Gaza, while 21 other Palestinians were killed by shelling on the Sheikh Radwan neighborhood in Jabalia camp and several areas in the center of Gaza. Israeli forces also imposed a military siege on the North Shams refugee camp in Tulkarm in the northern West Bank, where several young people were killed and others injured after resisting looting and house raids by occupation troops. Russia sent 27 tons of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip on the orders of President Vladimir Putin. The Ministry of Emergency Situations said that the cargo will be handed over to representatives of the Egyptian Red Crescent for distribution to civilians in Gaza. The Brazilian Ministry of Defense informed on Thursday that the BC-2 plane, which was waiting in Rome, landed at the international airport of El Arish in Egypt with 267 kilograms of humanitarian aid sent by the government of Lula da Silva.
Con 267 kilogramos de ayuda humanitaria enviada por el gobierno de Lula da Silva.
In parallel, the King of Jordan and the President of Egypt held a meeting in Cairo where they discussed the Israeli siege in the Gaza Strip and the deterioration of the humanitarian situation in the area. The leaders rejected Tel Aviv's actions to displace Palestinians from their territory towards Cairo and Amman. In this regard, Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez expressed on behalf of the Caribbean country its solidarity with the Palestinian cause, its right to sovereignty, while condemning the war actions against Gaza. Several Palestinian demonstrators marched in the center of Ramallah in the West Bank while carrying Palestinian flags and chanting during a demonstration condemning Israel's military action in the Gaza Strip. Likewise, in France and Germany, citizens protested in the streets of the capital cities in favor of the people of Palestine. At the same time, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry called on the international community to demand that Israel stop the attacks and open the humanitarian crossings to cover the basic needs of its citizens.
The situation in the hospitals in Gaza is increasingly worsening. From Gaza, our correspondent Noor Harasan reports from one of the hospitals to report on the situation there and to tell us the story of the mother who is there caring for her children after they were wounded by the Israeli attacks.
No place is safe in the Gaza Strip. What proves this is that we have been witnessing attacks, Israeli attacks on hospitals, schools, mosques, residential buildings. Even the people who have fled their homes from northern Gaza and central Gaza City to southern Gaza have been attacked. Today we have a story of a family that used to live in northern Gaza and then they fled to Deir al-Balah. When they fled to Deir al-Balah to stay with their relative home, they were attacked there. Let's speak with Ula.
We were in our house in Al-Karma. We were inhabitants of northern Gaza. When northern Gaza was threatened, we wondered where to go. We were told that southern Gaza was the safest part. We went there. We left Al-Karma and we went to the south. Al-Karma was attacked. Of course, we left before the shelling started. They threw phosphorus and we left. We went to my family's house in the south, in Deir al-Balah, and we stayed there for 4 or 5 days. Then our neighbor's house was bombed and destroyed. It was a massacre of Al-Yuda. The bombing hit my family's house, which suffered some damage. Several martyrs and wounded fell here in the house during the bombing. There were many displaced people who came to take refuge. Almost 50 people who came to take refuge. Where were they going to go? They were all people, young people, adults, women and children.
تحكي لي مين تصاوب من أطفالك؟ قديش عدد الأطفال اللي عندك؟ مين
I
تصاوب؟
have 4
اشرحي لنا كمان
children.
إصابة
Farah
هاجر
is 12 years
كيف
old.
إصابتها؟
He was wounded. He was in the bathroom performing ablution. The bath exploded while he was inside. His hands, his legs, his face. Thank God.
كل جسمه غرز،
left him
راسه
alive.
ووجهه ومع ايديه ورجليه، والحمد لله رب العالمين يعني انه ربنا سلمه على
Agar
قيد
was
الحياة.
lost. She was under the rubble. We looked for her, and the house was on fire. We had to put out the flames with other people to get her out. She was with her cousin, who is the same age as her. Thank God we were able to get her out, and she had a big head injury. Her head was full of shrapnel. She has a fractured leg and several shrapnel wounds all over her body.
وعندها غرز بسيطة يعني في جسمها.
طيب
The message is
إيش
clear.
رسالتك
This is
للعالم
the message.
الغربي
It cannot be any clearer.
بيشوفونا
I have
الآن؟
only one word. I have only God
والله
left
رسالة
before
واضحة
those who are doing this
هاي
to us.
رسالة.
I said
مش
first
أوضح
to
من
the
كده.
Arab world and
بس
then
هي
to the
كلمة واحدة
Western
أحكيها
world.
إنه حسبي الله
Thank
ونعم
God.
الوكيل للعالم العربي بعدين للغربي. بس والحمد لله رب العالمين.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged rapid, unimpeded humanitarian access to the beside Gaza Strip as Israel kept out its attacks on Palestinian-occupied territory. The UN chief stressed in Cairo on Thursday that the region needs food, water, medicine, and fuel immediately, as calls among them for aid to reach the territory's 2.4 million people. The Rafah border crossing between Egypt and Gaza, the only road in or out and not controlled by Israel, was bombed 4 times by Israeli aircraft last week.
I'm calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. For nearly 2 weeks, the people of Gaza have gone without any shipments of fuel, food, water, medicine, and other essentials. I'm calling for 2 immediate humanitarian actions: to Hamas, for the immediate and unconditional release of the hostages; to Israel, for immediate unrestricted access of humanitarian aid to respond to the most basic needs of the people of Gaza.
In Sudan, the number of hungry families has almost doubled the past year, so a war between the generals has plunged the country into chaos for 6 months. According to the press release by the World Health Organization and the United Nations Children Fund, 700,000 children suffer from severe acute malnutrition and 100,000 need life-saving treatment against acute malnutrition. Citing a projection from Johns Hopkins University, the statement said that at least 10,000 children under the age of 5 could die by the end of 2023 due to the increase in food insecurity and service disruption caused by the country's armed conflict. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. One final short break, don't go away.